SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, this lecture is on the Capitalocene, and here we are going to cover concepts like the Capitalocene itself and the relationship between COVID and Capitalocene. So, my argument would be is COVID a Capitalocene crisis? So, this is the question which I will ask, and then we would be talking about the circuits of capital to understand the present planetary crisis. And also we will be focusing on the multiple entanglements between human and non-human world. So, this is the frame, this is the lens of analysis that we really need to apply when we try to kind of understand complex socio-ecological problems. So, it is important for us to understand interspecies intersectionality or the multiple entanglements between human and non-human world in order to collectively understand complex systems. And finally, I would argue that why the different boundaries between nature, culture, city nature, urban nature should be blurred and maybe to an extent dismantled in order to have a more comprehensive, collaborative and collective understanding of contemporary challenges and constraints. So, then we had covered Anthropocene, and we now know that what Anthropocene is all about and how the planet is actually changing in terms of environment, and so we can also quantify these changes in the form of this planetary boundaries framework, which we had discussed extensively in the last topic. But then the question is, the whole focus or the emphasis on the Anthropocene concept can be a little problematic in the sense that it does not enable us to understand the inequity or injustices that are so much there, that are very much loaded within the concept of and within the context of the Anthropocene. So, this question becomes remains crucial within this context, that is the Anthropocene politically neutral? And I think Capitalocene is the framework, or Capitalocene it is the, as Moore, there is a Moore who conceptualized Capitalocene. He says that it's a kind of critical provocation to this sensibility of the Anthropocene. And again, there are criticisms of this Capitalocene framework as well. For example, till date I find the criticism by Ian Angus to be quite strong and quite meaningful. But then I must say that this is an important framework, because for example, when we discuss about ecological problems or we discuss about environmental transformations, the kind of suggestions or the kind of prescriptions that are imposed on us are that, like, you fly less, you don't buy you don't buy food from supermarket, buy local foods, and which are not shipped across miles. You just fix a solar panel on your rooftop, or you drive an electric car. So, these are the kind of arguments which, or the prescriptions which are laid out. But then the question is, with all these with all these suggestions, with all these prescriptions being imposed on us, and I must say that they make sense. But then the question is, are we not vacillating from the root cause of the problem? And what is the root, or what is the source of the crisis? Don't you think that the source of the crisis is rampant capitalism? Because I think Capitalocene is the framework which enable us to understand that how capitalism, it has steamrolled the planet Earth. It has gouged out mountains, it's over exploiting fish stock and the floral, faunal, avian diversity. And so through this fossil fuels are being burned to power the maniacal pursuit of growth, and all these at the cost of, or at the impact is enriching only a fraction of humanity. So, if you see the data, you will find out that since late 1980s, or like more specifically since 1988, only 100 corporations in the world have been responsible for more than 70% of GHG emission. So, we need to be aware of this information, and we should be exposed to this kind of facts. So, I think Capitalocene, it signifies capitalism as a way of organizing nature, multi-species, situated and capitalist world ecology. So, Moore says that capitalism is that framework, Capitalocene is that framework which provoke us to take capitalism seriously, because we have exterminated everything from megafauna to microbiota. So, this taking capitalism seriously would also enable us to understand it not just as an economic system, but also as a way of organizing relations between human and the rest of nature, human and the non-human world. So, it would help us to understand the kind of altered relationship that we have crafted with other planetary beings, and why it is important for us to reconceptualize and reconfigure this altered relationship. So, with this I would like to draw attention to this particular question, that is COVID-19 a Capitalocene challenge. Now, you can ask that why are we discussing all these? We are not talking about environment, we are not talking about urban. So, this course is on urban and environment. So, this course is on urbanization and environment. But why are we discussing COVID? Why are we discussing Capitalocene, or that matter Anthropocene? Because I think that these frameworks, they are crucial in terms of providing us with an entry plane to understand the relationship between nature and cities, and relationship between urban and nature, and why we are encountering challenges, the kind of challenges what we are encountering these days, and how can we really think about more sustainable, resilient, meaningful, comprehensive, just, democratic strategies or mechanisms through which important the challenge can be addressed from its root, because these are wicked problems. So, unless we address the crisis from its root, unless we we do a kind of a subsurface level analysis, we plunge ourselves into in-depth exploration to understand this long-term relationship between urbanization and nature, and how urban nature is produced, manipulated, manufactured, etc., then we will not be in a position to address these environmental challenges within urban context in a systematic, in a meaningful way. And our solutions, unfortunately, like several other solutions, will remain constricted within the frame of ecology in, which is the superficial level, but not ecology of cities, that enable us to understand the long term relationship between cities and nature, and that help us to contextualize the urban or cities as part and parcel of its wider ecological surroundings. So, I think these scenes, this Urbanocene, Anthropocene, Capitalocene, these are all very important. They are fundamental frameworks to help us understand the relationship between urban and environment, and several other variables that are at play. So, this is an assemblage, it is an assemblage of multi-layered interdependent complexities. So, it is important for us to unravel this multi-layeredness of challenges in order to reconfigure the urban nature relationship. So, with this I wanted to talk about whether COVID-19, that so the COVID-19 it's the greatest pandemic that modernity has been confronted with, and I think like to address this particular question, that whether COVID-19 is a capitalist challenge or not, the environmental social scientists and the environmental humanities scholars can play a very important role. And why I say this? Because like most of the scientific works, the scientific literature that I have accessed, the scientific works that I have accessed in the last few months, all these they categorize, or they explain COVID as a zoonotic crisis. This corona as the corona disease or the corona crisis as a zoonotic crisis, which means that it has come to the human beings, it has come down to us from animals. All right. So some literature attests that the bats, they were the hosts. They were the carriers. Some works confirm that pangolins were the host carriers, but there are other works which also talk about a more complex route. So, from bat to pangolin to human beings. But then I came across an article by Thomas Van Doren, and Van Doren is an environmental humanities scholar who is based in Australia, and here Van Doren makes a very significant remark, which is, he says that the real, so he wrote a small piece in Matilda, and there he's on pandemics and pangolins, and he says that the real source of the crisis is human and not animal. The real source of the crisis is human. So, and he points out that it is a dysfunctional relationship between the human non-human world. This is that human, it is the human induced, I will add that it is, let me make my addition to this. So, I would say that it is human induced dysfunctional relationship, human induced dysfunctional relationship between the human and the non-human world, or the metabolic rift between humans and animals, that has actually led to this mega crisis that we are facing today. And there is a scholar, this is a young researcher called Jesse Patterson, and Patterson also wrote a piece in the KTH blog on transformative humanities, and there Patterson talks about that why it is important for us to focus on, to explore the complex and intimate relationship between humans, between ourselves as consumers, between human and animals whom we consume, and how together we cohabit in space and time. So, all these varying dimensions or the relational aspects of this interrelationship, we need to be very careful about, and we have to have a greater understanding about this complex entanglements. So, the understanding is that in biological terms we have to keep this in mind. We have to have this understanding. This dawn of realization is so very important within this planetary context, that whether it's pig or goat or pangolin or bat or civet, etc. I think that the socioeconomic disruptions and ecological transformations triggered by this corona crisis testify the fact that in biological terms their bodies as microbial ecosystems are part of the same multi-species environment which we inhabit. So, it is very important for us to concentrate on this notion of interspecies intersectionality, which is a budding concept, a very useful theoretical traction, and we must acknowledge environmental humanities as an umbrella discipline so far as this conceptualization is concerned. So, yes, I am still talking about our dysfunctional relationship, and this wildlife trafficking is one major manifestation apart from several other manifestations. This is also one major outcome or one major manifestation of our dysfunctional relationship with the non-human world. So, what we are doing is that we are trafficking wildlife, and also the body parts are traveling from one country to the other, and it is a lucrative multi-billion-dollar business involving mafias, involving criminal cartels. All right. And so, we must understand that when these body parts travel from one country to another, they also carry the viruses or the pathogens with them. I was very lucky to be part of the program where the premier was, so there was this premier program about this particular movie, this documentary called Sea of Shadows, directed by Richard Latkani. So, this program, the premiere was organized by the RCC, Rational Concern Center for Environment and Society, and I was there last year, middle of last year. And then Richard Latkani and this whole, the whole team comprising 10-12 people came and they discussed about this documentary. Like, it's a very lively and vibrant movie which talks about how vaquita, which is the smallest well variety. So, how and it's almost like it's such a rare species, and it's on the verge of extinction. So, what is happening in the Mexican sea water? So, what is happening is that, like, how they showed, so this documentary showed us how these Chinese mafias in collaboration with this Mexican cartels, they harvest vaquita, or the swim bladder of this totoaba fish, which is considered to be the cocaine of sea, and how it's a very lucrative business here in terms of harvesting the vaquita. But then the good news, the good part of the story is that how media, including Richard Latkani's team. So, how media, Mexican Navy and undercover investigators now are fighting back, and they are trying to kind of dismantle this illegal business or illegal harvesting of vaquita. So, this is a film on that which I want to mention. So, it's not only about wildlife trafficking, but it's also about like capitalist live farm production, industrial production. And like, for example, if you take the data so far as rise of the poultry industry in India is concerned, you will see that in the last few decades, 2-3 decades, that is specifically between 1990 and 2010, how there has been an 8 to 10% annual growth in the Indian poultry sector, with an annual turnover of US dollars 7,500 million. So, it's quite huge. And I think if I discuss this, definitely I'll draw some criticisms, and I will be part of a big debate about like vegetarianism or non-vegetarianism, or even veganism or not. But that's a different question. But I mean, we can be divided on our opinions about whether being a vegan would be the ideal situation or not. But we cannot deny the fact, and I think we are unanimous. We are unanimous on the fact that the cities, these urban sites, these cities are not only consumption cities in terms of consuming wetlands, arable lands, because through hyper urbanization, these cities are sprawling in their hinterlands, and they are expanding by kind of swallowing and engulfing the ecological the agrarian pastures, the water bodies, wetlands, etc. But they are also consumerist cities in terms of dramatic and drastic rise in meat consumption, etc. So, there is also the story of changing dietary practices and cultural transformation, very much rooted in this larger story or narrative. Yes. So, here I think this map is very, very important in terms of fleshing out the international travel, and in terms of fleshing out even the global circuits of capital. So, so this is from so I take this quote from Wallace. We will discuss Wallace a little bit more in our next slide. And I read an article by Wallace which came out 3-4 months back in the monthly review journal, and here they kind of they asked us to contextualize the COVID crisis as part of the the functioning of the capitalist engine, and also its deep rooted impact on planetary boundaries and planetary processes at large. So, what is happening is that like the virus, it emerged just in one terminus in the regional supply line in exotic food, and from there like it set off to the chain of human to human infection, and then moved to the other end of the city of Wuhan, and then it diffused both locally and globally through movements along trains, planes, and which also provides a whole lot of information about the web structure of travel, and also down a hierarchy from larger to smaller cities. So, these interconnections, this mapping the contagion remains such an important exercise for us to map the movement of the virus, which is directly correlated to our own mobility. So, yes, again to continue the same discussion, that these are crucial aspects which have to be incorporated within any discussion surrounding this global pandemic, cities, circuits of capital, and even I was talking about the article by Wallace, and they and I find it quite provocative. So, they have categorized, they have kind of castigated corona or COVID as the neoliberal disease. All right. So, for example, let me explain how can we, or why should we really castigate corona as a neoliberal disease, because I think that we must understand that the animals were not sold off from the back of the truck or in alleyways. So, what happened is that there are stories of permits, payments, even deregulation very much ingrained in this whole narrative. So, it is all about the rise of this worldwide wild food industry as a formalized sector, capitalized by the same sources which actually back industrial production, and the urban peri-urban interconnections also remain so important in this discussion, because we must understand that pathogens, they do not remain contained or constricted within hinterlands alone. So, and there is this immediate spillover effects of these pathogens immediately spreading or moving from these hinterlands or the countryside to cities. So, for example, the Hubei province which is located in Guangdong, where Wuhan, the city of Wuhan is located, one must understand that Wuhan started developing as a very important manufacturing sector, as a manufacturing city, and then in the last 2-3 decades it has like grown exponentially. It has expanded by swallowing the forest areas, and what has happened is that the forest people they had been compelled to kind of move from the forest to the city, inhabiting the city slums. So, the slums can also be, it will not be an exaggeration to consider the slums as bridge between wild and the urban. And so these people, they often like they go back to the forest and they raise, they trap, they cage, they breed pangolins, bats, civets, wild boars, etc. And we can very much understand that how the pathogens they flushed out from the forest, and then they spread in thriving cities like Wuhan, which is just a flight away from Singapore or Sydney. All right. So, and I also managed to read this article by Hinchcliffe. So, they have a I think medical or virology background. So, Hinchcliffe asked us to concentrate more on borderlands than borderlines. So, till date, so he says this method to kind of contain diseases by crafting a borderline between healthy bodies and diseased bodies, right? And the attempts to kind of not make the healthy bodies get in touch with diseased bodies to control the spread of infection is a faulty attempt. So, he provokes us to kind of concentrate on an alternative topography of the spread of diseases, and how through that understanding we will be in a better position to understand and manage crisis. So, yes, finally, what I would like to conclude with is the very fact that we have to understand, we have no option but to understand that this war is not between viruses and vaccines. So, there a whole lot of discussion on this vaccine is going on, even there gives vaccine would be good for us or not or whatever, because there is also some arguments about how this virus is going to have an impact on our RNA composition, etc. But what I finally would like to argue is that we have to understand that this is not a war between virus and vaccine, because it will be important for us to blur and break boundaries, sacrosanct boundaries that are also there in our cognitive domain. So, we really need to understand the interconnectedness between nature society, urban rural, city nature, etc., which would be, I think, which would be dealt with in this course in great details, and that would be the major agenda, that is the overall agenda and objective of this course, to try to understand these interconnections, these intricately intertwined interconnections between urban rural, nature society, city nature. And I have not even used any hyphen between this. I have not used any hyphen, and why I have not used any hyphen, why I have deliberately kept these words as non-hyphenated to emphasize on their embeddedness and enmeshings. So, I would like to kind of end this topic or this lecture with one or two stories maybe, and at least one story, yes. So, for example, what is health? So, this question also, there is a virologist who is Ilaria Kapua. So, she is based in Florida, and she is also the architect, she is the main person behind this One Health Center. And this question that who is healthy, it also struck Ilaria Kapua. And then she said that it's not about individual health. Whether we are healthy or not cannot be determined by our own health, single-handed health at all. Why? Because it is important, and it remains very important for us to understand that healthiness or health, good health, good health can be ushered upon through a continuous dialogue between different planetary species at both macro and micro levels, right. So, Kapua says that health is a kind of conversation. It has to be understood as a conversation among cells, among molecules, proteins, and all other tiny speakers in the enormous integrated system, a system inhabited by plants, animals, birds, insects, etc. And we also cannot forget that we are ecosystems by ourselves. So, and our health will depend upon the richness and the balance of biodiversity dialoguing within our own bodies. All right. So, I will end with a story, and so there was a British doctor. His name was Edward Jenner. And Jenner in 18th century, he was a doctor, he was a British doctor of the 18th century, and Jenner found out that he observed a phenomenon. So, what he observed? He observed that in 18th century, smallpox was a big thing. It was an epidemic, all right, killing lives and skyrocketing the mortality rates and figures in Europe. So, he observed that an interesting phenomenon, that the milk maid who were exposed to cowpox. So, the cowpox was not that deadly. So, but those milkmaid who were getting affected with this cowpox, they were not getting affected with smallpox, even when they were getting exposed to the smallpox disease, but they were not falling sick, they were not succumbing to smallpox. So, this phenomena struck him, and he did some investigations, and he did some research on this, and finally found out, yes, that that this cowpox actually offered some immunity to smallpox. And so, the name vaccine itself has its origin from this phenomena, because in Latin cow, I think, is known as vaccina. So, in this way, this vaccine for the smallpox, so this is connected to the discovery of the vaccine or invention of the vaccine related to smallpox. This is also a part of the larger story of how the world invented a vaccine for smallpox. And so, this is the story of vaccination. And so, I think it provides a lot of clue about the cowpox, how cowpox also kind of provided a lot of immunity to the human bodies against smallpox. So, again, it is part of the same story of multi-species entanglement and interspecies intersectionality. So, it remains very, very important for us to kind of understand and internalize multispatial interconnections on one hand, where I already discussed blurring or dismantling of boundaries between sacrosanct categories like city nature, nature society, etc. And also we have to internalize, understand, explore and internalize multi-species entanglements. So, then we can transcend from this virus ecology to integral ecology, and this integral ecology which remains crucial and which is so very important for not only human well-being, but for the well-being of planet which we cohabit together. So, for the integral ecology is important for the well-being of planet at large. So, yes, these are the references, please go through these references, and so we had covered the Capitalocene framework, and and we had talked about that why Capitalocene is important in terms of fleshing out the connection between the economic activity, the aggressive rampant or aggressive capitalism of our times, since the dawn of the capitalist mode of production, and its impact on the earth system. Then we also discussed COVID. We discussed why COVID should be understood or projected as the Capitalocene crisis. We discussed the connections between COVID, Capitalocene and the contemporary global urban circuits of capital. And finally, I tried to shed light on like why it is important for us to emphasize this very fact of cohabitation, not inhabitation, but cohabitation. The way we are, we are part of the same multi-species environment. So, it is important for us to understand interspecies intersectionality and multi-species entanglements, blurring all sacrosanct binaries, borderlines and boundaries. Thank you.